high one to box on the Box Rock and Celluloid, Bob Brack for short. I'm Edward Box. So sad little piece this. Gene Hackman's died. Absolutely one of my favourite screen actors of all time. We'll go into that and we'll have a look at his career. I've got it lined up here. Very much a character actor who could carry a film, a character star, as they say. Probably Robert Duvall's probably the closest I can think to this kind of actor, where a middle-aged guy when he made it, kind of balding already, not somebody you'd expect to be a leading man, but he came up in that era. Ironically, in Bonnie and Clyde, a film which stars someone who's every inch a leading man at the time, Warren Beatty. One of the things Beatty's infinitely his best performance, and Hackman brilliant in that film, and that got him his first Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Then he'd have a few sort of leads in kind of B movies, and he starred in Downhill Racer and Gypsy Moths, which are pretty decent kind of sport films. And eventually he was Oscar nominated again for I Never Sang for My Father Night. It's a film I haven't seen. And then, of course, 1971 is The French Connection, and that makes him a star on a clear footing with the next bit I'm about to mention. Obviously, Warren Beatty, I mentioned there. Dustin Hoffman, who broke out in 1967 as well with The Graduate. John Voight, to a lesser extent, in 1969 with Midnight Cowboy. Jack Nicholson in 1969 with Five Easy Pieces. I think what's interesting about these actors is that none of them a typical leading man. Obviously, you could add Robert Redford into this, but he's more of a movie star. Nicholson became a big star. He's got that devilish charm, more of a character actor look. Voight's a bit kind of quirky. Hoffman, he's 5'6". None of these guys are typical leading man material, and that makes them all the more interesting. And yeah, I don't know why it was they projected into that, something about the new Hollywood, the greatest era of filmmaking for Hollywood, for my money. Something about their look, something about their style made them very much a thing. Before Pacino and De Niro kind of came out and kind of started to kind of define the mid-70s onwards, I suppose. It's weird, you look at actors today, and there's a lot of great acting, but there's just something about that period for me. You look no further than The French Connection, what Hackman does in that. He just is Popeye Doyle. I suspect he was nothing like that in real life. There's an element of, when you watch his performances, there's an element, is he playing himself? Although his performances seem similar, I don't know, they're not, he's totally believable. And I always said with Hackman, he was always infinitely, generally the best thing in every film he was in. He was always rise to, if the material was great, and he'd always rise above the material. He did a lot of films. Why was that? I think it took him a long time to make it. So when the paychecks were big in the 70s, I think he did churn out a lot of films. And there's maybe some stuff he shouldn't have done. But every few years he would strike gold. And when you look back over his career, there'll be a pocket where it's not that good, and then he'll pop up in something awesome. So just going back, like I said, I always mentioned the Gypsy Moths and Downhill Racer, which are really good. Maroon's a bit of a boring sci-fi, but these were some of these early kind of minor hits. And then you got the French Connection 71, of course, massive hit. We win the Best Actor Oscar, and French Connection 2. Although that film's not as good, it is a good film, but I would argue his performance is possibly even better. He didn't get an Oscar nomination for it, but he won the BAFTA for Best Actor. He's absolutely incredible in the French Connection 2, Cold Turkey. He does a film in 72 called Prime Cut. This is very much a cult film. It stars, Cisco Pike, pardon me. It stars Chris Christopherson, and Hackman plays a corrupt cop. So he's the kind of second fiddle in this. It's really good. It's a really good film. It's a good rock and roll film. Chris Christopherson works really well in the part. Hackman's quite scary, quite unhinged. And there's another film in 72, along with Prime Cut, it's called The Poseidon Adventure. I think this is one of the most straight, on paper would be one of the most straight ahead roles he did. And what would probably be, after inflation, his biggest box office success he was in, apart from the first two Superman films. But what I always loved about this film, apart from his self-sacrifice scene, which is just, it's way better than these films are notoriously cheesy, and he's just fucking awesome in that scene. But he's brilliant. He is the man of, he's a kind of lapsed, he's a vicar, he's a reverend, isn't he? But I feel like he's lapsed a bit. There's the other guy, but Hackman chooses sort of logic over faith, and within that is quite an interesting sort of thematic idea, I suppose, in that film. And it shows intelligence that he embraces that. And you've got a good ensemble cast, but the other lot are kind of filling in the gaps with good performances. But Hackman, he stands out as a lead in that film. I remember when the first time I saw it, I always loved that. Then 73 got The Scarecrow. This is his cult film, which I only saw recently. It's been very, very hard to find with Al Pacino. It's a road movie, and it comes at the tail end of the road movie trend of the late 60s, early 70s. But this is really good. Hackman's great in it. So is Pacino, but I'd say Hackman's kind of got the harder role. He's quite a challenging character. He's very ambiguous. Really good. Then, of course, you've got The Conversation in 74, which I would say is probably his greatest piece of acting, and I would put in the top 10 or 5 performances in screen acting, certainly in that era. He plays Harry Cole, he plays a surveillance expert in Coppola's masterpiece. He has Catholic guilt, he has paranoia of his new case because one's gone wrong before, and it's all based on him mishearing something. Like Antonioni's blow up. He's brilliant. The end's amazing. Then Young Frankenstein, he does a great cameo in that, and this is the first time he shows his flair for comedy. Although he's got some dark comical bits in Bonnie and Clyde and Cisco Pike. Absolutely brilliant. And then some of his films where he gets paid a lot for, Lucky Lady, Bite the Bullet, The Domino Principle. These films, certainly Domino Principle is a flop. But he made some good money here. But in the middle of this is one of his flop films. It's also one of his best films. It's Arthur Penn's Night Move. So Arthur Penn made Bonnie and Clyde. By the mid-70s, Penn had kind of lost his touch a bit, and the kind of themes, ideas of his films maybe weren't quite in sync in the mid-70s as you're going into the Jaws and Star Wars era. But Hackman is brilliant in this. He plays a private eye who's investigating a case, but it becomes an investigation of his character. I'm not. It's a spoiler really, but he doesn't end up solving the case. It doesn't matter. It's all about the kind of process and him. Quite a short film, but really good. It's not on enough, but it's a cult classic. Then he's in A Bridge Too Far, the all-star cast. I would argue he gives the best performance on this. I do like the performances in A Bridge Too Far. It's savvy casting. You cast people you know to do short parts, but it's him and James Caan who stand out in this. The fact that Hackman does a decent fist of a Polish accent, and just by sheer virtue of his Hackman-ness brings more to the table. And James Caan's really good in it. Does March or Die, which is a big flop, but again, I think he got paid well for that. And then you get Superman and Superman 2. He shot these back for back, and he walked away from the franchise because of the treatment of Richard Donner. But this is the kind of character where you forget sometimes, when you think of his films, you forget that Gene Hackman's in Superman, and then you remember not only is in Superman, he's fucking brilliant, and he's easily the equal of Christopher Reeve and Marlon Brando, and he's got great lines, and he's got the brilliant, he pulls the wig off at the end when he gets captured. He's absolutely brilliant, and a lot of younger people love Gene Hackman, but my generation, and maybe haven't seen the wider range of his films. You love him, because he is Lex Luthor, and he will never be topped. And again, like I said before, in terms of bums on seats, probably his biggest films. He's cameo in Reds, Under Fire. I've not seen this in ages. He's quite a good political figure, Two of a Kind. That's just dodgy. But in '83, he's got 4 films out in 1983. There's Uncommon Valor. Now, this is like a rerunning of the Vietnam War film from director Ted Kotcheff, who did First Blood, and this is actually pretty good guys on a mission film. Again, Hackman brings more to the table he needs to. He's a colonel. His son has disappeared in Vietnam. He's a prisoner of war. They've not been rescued. So in '83, 10 years after, he puts a crew together. It's like a guys on a mission film. At the end, it has all the guys with their faces in circles. And it's a good film, and it's got quite a tragic ending. And this is a pretty big hit. I think this, if you released it now, it should gross $100 million. And then he was in Eureka as well that year with the director Nicholas Roeg. Again, this is a real puzzle of a movie. I have not seen this in years. I've only seen it once, but I remember really enjoying it. Hackman's excellent, and he plays a gold prospector who strikes gold and becomes very rich. And I read I think Peter Bradshaw's in The Guardian's retrospective on Hackman today, he mentioned maybe a bit of inspiration there for Daniel Day-Lewis's character in Where There Will Be Blood. Similar themes. Then you got Misunderstood Twice in a Lifetime. I haven't seen those, but there's a film called Target. No, my friend is a thumbnail for this, Gary Foley, is a big fan of Target. This is a Euro thriller, again with director Arthur Penn. And it's like a father-son thing with Matt Dillon. Didn't do that well at the time, but quite enjoyable, I remember. And then another film I've only seen once, but is generally seen as one of the better sports movies. And again, along with downhill races, Hoosiers. So this is actually, again, quite a sizable hit in its day, grossing about 35-40 million. So, and this was a period when he maybe needed a hit. Dennis Hopper got an Oscar nomination. He plays a coach who takes on, a kind of lesser team, and it's supposed to be really good. And then he's in No Way Out, and I think this was the signpost of where things would be going for him, because he plays the second lead to the main star, and this is after this is almost him going like, look, I'm at the age now, I'm 57, 56, I'm a character actor. He's absolutely great in this. He plays he's not the president, I forget what political position he is, but this is a great thriller. It's really good, and Hackman plays the villain in this, but he's kind of like sweaty palmed. He's kind of ended up being the villain by accident, but he's coercive. It's very complex, and it's a really, really good keep you guessing thriller. Hackman's excellent. He turned up again for The Quest for Peace, Superman 4. Less said about that, but better. Hopefully he's paid well. Back 21, a film I've only seen once. One of my friends online was raving about this. I seem to remember this being pretty enjoyable. Another Vietnam one, Split Decisions at some other sport thing, Full Moon in Blue Water, Another Woman, the only time he worked with Woody Allen. And then you get The Package, which is quite a good thick-ear action flick from 89 years with Tommy Lee Jones, Andrew Davis directing. He did The Fugitive. So he's getting leading roles in sort of lower things. But of course in 88 he does Mississippi Burning. And this was, I wouldn't say it was a comeback for him because he hadn't been away, but it was a comeback. He got his next Oscar nomination. It was a big gap between his Oscar win for French Connection and his Oscar nomination for this. He's absolutely superb in this. Again, a very complex character who plays off William Dafoe's more straight-laced liberal. I love Hackman in this, great film. And then Narrow Margin, quite an entertaining remake. He does quite a lot of sort of action in this and kind of light comedy or comical elements. It's good. And then, of course, Unforgiven, the film he won the Best Supporting Actor for. Brilliant in this, along with Morgan Freeman and Richard Harrison. And really helping, I think, to bring out the best performance of Clint Eastwood's career as well up to that point. Then The Firm, taking an excellent mentor role. And again, this would be the third act of his career, I suppose, will be playing these types of figures. He's very good in this. Again, he plays an ambiguous character who's decent but corrupt. He plays a great villain in The Quick and the Dead. Crimson Tide, again, he's the second lead to Denzel Washington. Some great scenes about the horses and stuff. Again, him and Denzel kind of chewing dialogue and elevating this piece to one of the best submarine films. Get Shorty's very funny in that with Birdcage. And then various ones. Enemy of the State, probably his last sort of biggish hit. Again, he's this kind of taps into his role in the conversation, and he's good in that. And Heist, the David Mamet film. And then he finished on quite high with the Royal Tenenbaums. Excellent performance. Why he didn't get Oscar nominated for this, I don't know. He's probably an actor who should have had, a couple of more noms there. It's interesting that Robert Duvall's the same age, but Hackman retired in 2004. Duvall kept going on. And he's bagged himself a couple of other noms. But they're quite similar, in a way, the type of roles they play. But his last film was A Runaway Jury, where he was actually with Hoffman again, which was they were flatmates back in the day in New York. And then he finished with Welcome to Mooseport. This was a flop. For whatever reason, he decided to retire. Not, I think, because this was a flop. He just didn't want to carry on. But it's a shame he couldn't have had one final flourish. But so, quite a mixed bag. But like I said before, every year, 2-3 years, he would turn up in something interesting or be in a hit film. So how does he compare? I mean, I'd always say like Jack Nicholson and Dustin Hoffman probably had the better filmography from 67, 68, 69 through to 75, or the back end of the 70s. But I think, their films and their roles are less appealing as the 80s go on for me. Whereas Gene Hackman, even when he was in B-movie fare, he's just always brilliant. So this guy was just absolutely right up there. And again, obviously he retired very early part of this century. He's a 20th century figure. And as people are digging into acting and watching movies, they will come across the work of the great Gene Hackman. He won't be forgotten. I'm gutted today because the circumstances of this sound strange. We don't know what's happened. It's completely normal that a man of 95 would pass away, but obviously looking at the details, we'll wait to see what's happened there. But I'll just leave it there, and what a fantastic screen actor we've lost today, Mr. Gene Hackman. Thank you very much.